So we have a great episode for you today, which is focusing on LinkedIn. This episode covers a whole range of different things, from the key things that you need to build an effective LinkedIn profile, to touching upon some networking strategies for doctors who are busy and have no time, to what looks good when you've done it right? So if you are looking to move to industry or really develop your profile this year and you're using LinkedIn as a networking vehicle to do this, then listen to this episode with Dr. Mohamed Draz, who is a neurosurgeon, but also an expert at optimizing your LinkedIn profile. And so much so, he's written a whole comprehensive guide on it. So find out more in this episode. Welcome to Disrupting Doctors' Careers. I'm your host, Dr. Abeyna Bubbers-Jones, and today we are talking LinkedIn again. So, as I say to a lot of doctors, especially if you are moving to industry positions, private sector, LinkedIn is something that you can't really get away from comfortably, especially if you're in a competitive area like pharma, consulting, and health tech. And so we've covered LinkedIn numerous times in the past, but today we have a very special guest who is a neurosurgeon. So he's a senior clinical fellow in neurosurgery, but he's also a total geek on really leveraging and optimizing your LinkedIn profile as a clinician, and also runs a YouTube channel on neurosurgery. But we're going to focus today on the three critical things that all doctors and career change need to have in your LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn, like every social media platform, it can be really overwhelming, especially if you are new to it. And it is like a game. You've just got to learn how to play the game, but also, most importantly, let the game work for you. So introducing Mohamed Draz, who is going to tell us a little bit more about why and how he helps medics unleash their social impact and magical skills. So welcome.
Thanks, Abeyna, for the invite for the podcast, and I hope everyone finds this useful conversation.
Yeah. So tell me, I mean, how did you first get stuck into LinkedIn as a neurosurgeon?
Yeah, so I've been on the platform like for ages, and just kind of like everyone, kind of just get in, scroll through a few half an hour or an hour, and then that's it. But then at some point, like early 2022, I started to write on LinkedIn, and that opened up a lot of opportunities. And after that, me and my colleague, we started a YouTube channel, and that opened again another view of.
So what kind of, I'm going to say, sorry, what kind of opportunities did it open up?
So loads of things. One, I mean, I can list a lot, but basically, the first one is writing is a wonderful thing to do anyway. They always say, if you write a lot, then you're a better thinker. So if you write a lot, then and sharing these thoughts with other people, then you think better. So that's on a personal side, that it helps you anyway. Mm-hmm. But on a career side, I mean, you get exposed to a lot of people in your career. Or in your field or in your specialty. So you can get a lot of people to collaborate on projects, on research. You can share your experience doing some cases or other cases that you have seen, or a piece of technology that you used, and you interact with a lot of people about these things. You get requests from industry to ask you about expert opinion about their technology or about something that they're trying to introduce to the market. You get a lot of students to contact you asking for either mentorship or to come to your unit for a visit, or to join you for a few weeks.
What's the best opportunity that you've got or you've had?
I got a lot of students actually, which I like mentoring students, so I got a lot of students. I got invites for many podcasts. This is one of them.
This is not via LinkedIn, by the way, guys.
Yeah. but yeah, I mean, events, you get to know about events and get to know people. So when you go to events, you kind of know them from before. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, open a lot of ideas outside medicine, which is really interesting. It's kind of coming into the intersection of industries
sure.
together, and
Yeah, I
then
have to say
you
one of the best thing that I've managed to get from LinkedIn is a trip to California.
okay.
I
I
literally
didn't get to
met
this
this
level.
guy on LinkedIn. It wasn't a relationship type thing. It was totally professional, and it was like via kind of a medic footprints type vein, and ended up visiting him and UCLA in California, which is incredible. Incredible. A
That's
bit
great.
random, but like, and that was a number of years ago. But yeah, similarly, like, people can reach out to you. It's a two-way thing. So,
Yeah.
reaching out to people, one thing, people reaching out to you is another thing. And it's incredible what can really happen as a result of that. But tell me a little bit
Yeah.
more about, in this day and age, why are doctors using LinkedIn? So you've mentioned a whole range of different things. We've talked about
Yeah.
uncovering jobs, mentoring, branding, and profile.
Yeah.
But what else have you seen? Because what have I seen? I've seen a lot of doctors on LinkedIn because I think they realize that having that presence there is important. But would you say more doctors are using LinkedIn, especially if they're looking to get out of healthcare or get out of their traditional
Um,
careers?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we still kind of doctors are always resistant to change anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone is kind of focused on a medical career and not stepping out to try something else, either stepping out completely or partially, I don't think they see a use case for LinkedIn. However, I disagree with this, but you can't find, like a consultant neurosurgeon just joining LinkedIn and writing just for the sake of being there. So, I mean, there are a lot of examples of why doctors use it. I mean, if you're staying in your medical career, then there is a lot of opportunity of, discussions about medical topics. So there are a lot of examples of people sharing cases, and then they have loads of comments and interaction from experts, all over the world, and it's kind of detailed professional medical discussions. If you are stepping out, then people are kind of coming and kind of sneaking and trying to see, okay, what's going on there. I mean, what are the companies are saying? What are the what can I do outside medicine or beside medicine? But the problem is you won't get the most benefit out of it if you're not contributing or if you're not sharing your
Mm,
thoughts and interacting with people,
mm-hmm.
because this is how these platforms are built. LinkedIn or any social platform is built for, you know, basically they want people to spend more time on it. So the
Yeah.
more you spend, it's better for them. So either you spend this time as a consumer or as a creator. As a consumer, you're just scrolling through the posts without any interaction, which I don't think is beneficial by any means. Or as a creator,
But I heard that as a consumer, well, I think like what 60 to 70% of people on LinkedIn are just consumers, is that they don't
yeah, I
write
think,
or
yeah,
post
yeah, yeah,
anything.
maybe more. I believe maybe more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But they still get
Um,
to look at stuff and they still get to use it. So how does
yeah, they
that
still get to
work?
use it, but yeah, I mean, basically, if you have like few hundred friends on LinkedIn and you're just consuming, I mean, that's the opportunities you're going to see is not going to get bigger because your the circle around you is not getting bigger. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way to make this circle bigger is by either contributing by writing posts and sharing your experiences and all of this, or at least interacting with other people if you're not keen to kind of share your own thoughts, but at least interacting with the posts that are there on LinkedIn. And that basically will open, people will see that, and then they will either friend request or they interact with you as well. And then this is how you make your social circle much bigger than it is.
So I mean that's really interesting. So we remove the whole idea of LinkedIn. Like pretend we're in the day and age where we don't have anything digital. What is the main purpose of networking in general for doctors who are
So
looking for other career opportunities? What would you
yeah,
say?
so I would say that the you know, I think that most of the jobs are easily, you can easily get them through a side door rather than the front door, which is the application. Networking is one of those doors, which you can do very easily on LinkedIn. Let's say medic food brands, they have a job and I'm trying to apply. If Abeyna knows me through my LinkedIn profile and posts and everything, you would know more about myself rather than just a job application that I will send to you.
Absolutely.
And then that breaks a lot, and then my likelihood chance of getting that job is much, much higher than someone else who you don't know. Even if we
Yeah.
didn't meet in person. But that's I think for anyone looking for a job outside the medicine, that's the way that you show your face and say, okay, this is what I do, these are the skills that I have, this is my thoughts, and then the jobs will come to you rather than you're looking for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, using that example, like we have recruited, or we're in the process of recruiting, and this time, sometimes we say LinkedIn profile optional. On this occasion, it was LinkedIn profile mandatory. And a lot of that is also because of just what you said. We only ask one question, one main question for applications, which is introduce yourself, tell us more as to why you're interested in this opportunity. I don't want your CV, thank you very much, but I do want your LinkedIn profile, because it's a dynamic picture, tells a dynamic picture, but realistic picture if they are engaging on the platform as to what they're about. But also we need team members who are social by nature of we're a mission driven organization, and we are community driven organization, and we need our members to help us with that, but also our team members in particular. It's all about the networks. So I think you made some really valuable points there. And talking about I have 3 doors. I've got the front, the side, and the back door. So the side door is when you get a job and you're in, and then you kind of move up whilst you're in. Whereas in the back door is like literally the bouncer shoves you in the back door because you know them or you used to go out with them, but you're only out with them to get in the back door, not because you actually like the bouncer. That kind of thing. That's got nothing to do with anything that happened in my life. But anyway, moving on. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great platform for networking, and that's something that's quite alien to doctors in general as a skill. Because, with our structure that we have in training as doctors, networking, even though we probably have done it, it's not something that's necessary to get a job, which is its pros and cons. But when we're looking at industry, networking is quite an essential skill to have, regardless of actually which door you're getting into, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking to thrive in industry.
I mean, even for the doctors themselves who are still, doing a medical job and want to stay there, I mean, networking is essential. If you write a research paper, what you want out of it is a lot of people to read about it. If you just post it on LinkedIn, I think it's much more likely to be seen in comparison to just staying on PubMed and waiting for people to go and look at it.
As we know, most researchers just stays on PubMed, doesn't go anywhere. It was only read by the few, unless someone wants to pick it up and make sense of it and then republish it in something that we all understand. But so out of all the social media platforms, I've been on all of them, and I am on most of them. I think I've gone around a few from when it comes to level of engagement, but LinkedIn is now my number 1 platform. So moving on to principles underpinning an effective LinkedIn profile. What would you say? I mean, another thing we haven't mentioned so far in this conversation is that Mohamed has put together a very comprehensive, very, very comprehensive guide on developing an effective profile on LinkedIn. So what would you say are the key principles of actually doing that as a doctor who's uncovering new opportunities?
So I think the the most important things is to optimize and use all the features available on a profile page. So you can see a lot of doctors go, create a LinkedIn account, and you barely see, they don't have even a profile picture. I mean, I think that's unacceptable, to be honest. Whenever I get a request from someone, like a friend request or a connection request without a profile picture, I simply, ignore it, because at least I want to see, who am I connecting with. So simple things first is use all the features that are there. So a profile picture, that has to be, a professional picture. Still, people are looking at LinkedIn as a professional platform. It's not Facebook, it's not Instagram. So people might find it, a little bit odd to see your picture in a party, or a selfie of you with your friend. So you have to have like a professional looking picture.
There is a bit of
Then,
variety though you see on LinkedIn, I have to say.
yeah,
There's a spectrum. As you said, there's some people with no photo, which are like, you're a real person. And then you've got people that they are at a party, and they are wearing sunglasses,
yeah.
or they're in a bikini. You know,
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure how I don't think that doctors will go that
no,
far.
I'm not
But
expecting that, but yeah, I
yeah,
mean, at the
yeah,
end of the day, it's about having a picture where people can recognize you and you look friendly and approachable. That's all you
yeah,
really need,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And then make a clear message of who you are, and what are the skills that you have, and what you can offer, or how you can help. So use the description part, write a story of yourself, what you have done in the past, what are the skills that you have, what are the experiences you have gone through, and what you can offer, or what are you looking for. If you're looking for a job outside medicine, then okay, what are you looking for? So whenever anyone lands on your profile, they know exactly, how you can help them, or how they can help you.
So yeah, I know this
Um,
in itself, as you've described, Mohammed, is a skill that lots of doctors do
yeah,
struggle with. So even though Mohammed's just describing it, it's not easy, especially if you're a doctor. And like what I found particularly is, as a doctor, we're taught or institutionalized into thinking that the more complex, the better. The more
yeah,
words, the better. The more lofty sounding, the better. And the
yeah,
more technical, the better. And the more
yeah,
detailed, the better. So when it comes to selling yourself, which is a masterclass we did a few weeks ago, it's about stripping all of that down and pretending you're talking to like a 5-year-old, and keeping it as simple and concise and easy to remember as possible. So there's like minimal stroke, no ambiguity. So similar to like if you were talking to a patient about a
yeah.
complex medical something, history or diagnosis, you'd want to simplify it as much as possible so they could understand it. It's the same kind of exercise, but it's quite difficult when you're doing it for yourself. I've personally found that, but also a lot of doctors that we've mentored and coached find that as well. What would you say about that, Mohammed?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we tend to, to think about the more in a more complex way, and also we underestimate that, people from the public, they don't understand the medical language or how we talk, and because we have been living in this for ages,
Mm.
then that became like a natural way of our talking, and then we just forget that people don't understand it. And if you are stepping outside the medical field, you have to recognize this issue and be sure that you're talking in a very plain language that everyone can understand. So that's very important, So rather than saying my experience is, maybe for myself, I would say, okay, I've done like 500 lumbar discectomies. No one would understand what does that mean if they're not in the medical field. But it might be easier to say, okay, I've done like 500 back operations, or I've helped 500 patients to get rid of their
Mm-hmm.
back and leg pain, something like that. But also you have to show the experiences you have gone through. We were just talking about the expert myth, that people think that they have they have to be an expert in a specific field so they can talk about it, or they can mention this as on their profile or in their posts, which is actually not true. And you know an expert is someone who had some sort of experience in the past, so maybe a 1 month old is an expert in comparison to a 1 day old newly born baby, because he has gone through 30 days of life, so he has more experience than the 1 day old. So a medical student would have experience because he can teach a high school student how to get into medical school and how to get through this. Similar, a resident or an FY1 will be, an expert into, and helping a medical student, and so on.
I would always say it's in relation to whoever you're talking to. So if you know more about a topic than the person that you're talking to, then you're the expert, essentially, and vice versa. So it's always in context.
Yeah.
And with regards to, you've made a really excellent point about doctors and being worried that they don't have the qualifications, or they don't have the badge, or the tick box competencies, and they can't possibly call themselves an expert or a specialist or anything. And I had that for a very long time, and I was very scared that the GMC would come and hunt me down for misrepresentation. But the reality is, everyone and anyone is calling themselves an expert now. One of my biggest rants is the healthcare industry, the health and social care industry, and how many people are going around calling themselves experts, which I guess in some respects they are, but they don't have any sorts of any evidence to back that up besides them just saying it, and then people paying them because they believe that they offer them a good service, and I guess they will. But it's things like that. I think it's mainly recognizing that if you are listening to this and you're a doctor and you're scared of calling yourself an expert, there are millions and billions of people out there who are doing it, who aren't necessarily any better than you, but are taking your opportunities as a result of that.
You don't have to necessarily say I'm an expert, but you can say, okay, I had this experience, and you can just tell that experience.
Exactly. We were talking about thought leadership earlier, and basically stating an authority on a subject matter. Tell us a bit more about how you can communicate that in your LinkedIn profile.
So basically, people are using social media, and basically they are trading their time on social media to get some reward. That reward can be either entertainment or educational or both. And they are looking for people who has the authority to do so. So let's say, if you have a heart problem, you will go to a cardiologist, not to me as a neurosurgeon.
Hope not.
But people need to know that you have the vision and the insight and the expertise to do so. So you're going to a cardiologist because you know that they have been through medical school and they have gone through some exams and they have been qualified. But when people see you on LinkedIn or any social platform, they don't know who you are or what you have done. So you have to tell them how did you reach to that point. So if you want, let's say, a job in an alternative pathway in medicine, and this is probably why you're listening to this podcast, then you have to show your potential employer that you have the skills required for this job. Just give them indirect messages by posting online, create that authority by regularly posting and interacting with things that happen on this social platform around this topic. So let's say you're interested in health tech, in a specific, you can find all the big health tech companies and see their posts and interact with that. Not just interacting by saying, few words, but by, replying by thoughtful comments and providing some insight of what you think of it is, of these posts. And then share your experiences as well, by writing yourself online, write articles, write a newsletter, write posts, post a link and comment on what you think about it, whatever you do. But by doing this regularly, then you build this authority and people will think about, okay, this person talks a lot about this X topic, and that's it. This is how you build that authority simply,
Mm-hmm. I think that's really good advice. Another thing that you've mentioned with regards to the commenting, that I think people underestimate how valuable that can be if you don't have a lot to say, right? It is to comment on other people's posts, on a regular basis. And that's a really great way of networking that isn't really used as much as it could be.
Yeah.
And it's great because most people, they'll see something they may or may not like or whatever, tag it. But the people that actually comment, especially when there aren't that many comments as well, it's even better. This is a really great way for you to jump in and say something really thoughtful and valuable to either kind of ignite a conversation or just get seen. Just simply get seen. And all of your comments, or posts or interactions, they come up on your LinkedIn profile as kind of the last, what's that section again?
Yeah.
That I'm talking about, the last posts or the last featured or something. It will come up, and people looking at your profile will see what have you interacted with, what have you commented on, what have you posted. Is that in line with who you say you are? Because the reality is, if there's nothing or there's not much on your profile, which is what it will be like when you start, absolutely, people can't make a decision on you. Because they don't know anything, therefore they're just going to leave it and move on to someone they can make a decision on. So the question is, how can you get started quickly, but in a way that you don't feel like you're spending all of your time on LinkedIn? Because if you're like me, I don't want to be spending all of my time on LinkedIn. I've got a billion and one things to do. So do you have any advice, Mohamed, on like strategies that doctors could consider when it comes to wanting to build up their LinkedIn profile, but not kind of going through the overwhelm process of trying to do everything?
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree. I mean, it takes a lot of time, and it's time consuming, like any social media. But if you put a strategy for it, then you can limit yourself with the use. So, what I usually do for myself, let's say, for example, is, if I'm going to write some posts, then I create those or write these posts like in advance, and everything is planned like probably a week before. So I don't spend much time like every day thinking, okay, what I need to write today, okay, and then spend time writing this. And so that's, if you're thinking in going towards like writing every day or a few days a week, then try to have like maybe half an hour or an hour on a Saturday or Sunday. Just put your thoughts down, write it, schedule all the posts. Now there's a scheduling feature, I think, on LinkedIn, or you can use any of the scheduling websites or softwares, which most of them, you can use a free version of that to schedule your LinkedIn posts. So that's one thing. On the other side, on commenting, then, I mean, you probably would open your LinkedIn once a day at least. So once you do that, just spend that time to maybe half an hour to comment on 3-4 posts that you have seen on your news feed. And again, that comes to, there's also an important point here is pick the circle that you have around you in LinkedIn, because that's what will come up in your face once you open LinkedIn. So if you have like, let's say you're interested in health tech, but you have all the people that you added are in, let's say, health finance or health economics, then all the posts that will come in front of you will be on something that you're not interested in. Then you won't be able to comment on it, and that's really difficult. So if you don't have the content to comment on it, then you're not going to comment.
Simply. I think this is one of the downsides to LinkedIn, because it does create this false bubble.
Yeah.
Of everyone in the world is talking about this and talking about what you're interested in. Oh my God. But we see a lot of that, online in general, whereby we interact with something, then regardless of what we want, it will show us the same thing or something similar or something related to make us again think we're in this kind of false bubble. And it's quite difficult to then discover and explore things outside of that bubble, if it makes any sense. So I think LinkedIn is exactly the same thing. So in my network, most people are in healthcare, health tech in particular, and I do see a lot of the same people post. But that's the algorithm. But what I would say, because again, algorithms change, and you have no control over the algorithms, which change constantly. But for doctors that are listening, I would say to get yourself into a rhythm that works for you. Don't worry so much about the algorithm. But as Mohamed said, it's about the contributing regularly, but in a way that works for you. And it could start with a period of just watching and listening, because that in itself is also quite valuable, just to see how people are using, engaging and interacting on the platform. But just moving forward to our title of the podcast, which is 3 critical things that doctors really need to do to leverage their profile on LinkedIn. So what are the 3 things? We've already talked about one of them, which is authenticity and authority or thought leadership. What were the others, would you say?
So, as you said, authenticity or thought leadership or authority. We already covered that. I think the second or the two other important points are contribution and consistency. And contribution, what I mean by this is basically moving from being a consumer, just using LinkedIn or any social platform, just scrolling, to the creator side. And the creator, that can be a variety of things, as we mentioned, either someone who's actively creating every day, or someone who's creating from now and then, and or just interacting in general. And there are billions of people on social media, but I think probably I would say at least 99% are just consuming content. And only 1% are creating something or contributing to a variable degree of contribution. So I like, they are like, someone who is, you can call them the liker, who is like liking every single post that you read.
I'm not saying shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there is a higher level, slightly higher level, who, that person who comments on every single post. And then a highest level is basically you are contributing yourself and writing on a regular basis. So it's very important that you move from that side to that side, or maybe start by observing, as you said, and then move to commenting, interacting, and then start creating and writing online. Also, people also have to focus on the interaction, not just through the commenting or writing, but also you can direct message people, and that's very important because you want to build relationships rather than anything else.
Relationships. I think that's the key point.
We forget that it's a virtual platform, and building relationships there is really difficult. But if you message people and say, okay, I'm interested in that, or I've seen your post, interested in that, and then maybe you meet, if you're in the same place or in the same city, just organize a meeting, or a call, or even a call or a chat for 15 minutes or something like that. Then you get to know people, and then that's that opens again other opportunities, and build like a proper relationship rather than just a virtual relationship.
I mean, I think it's important to remember, again, another point for doctors, that networking, using these kind of platforms, it's all about the long game. It's not a short game thing, so don't expect any instant results. I mean, you're lucky if you do get instant results, but most of the time people invest in it. It's an investment. Just like YouTube, like becoming a YouTube creator is a huge long-time investment. Same goes for LinkedIn. As most people on LinkedIn that I know who are active, they've been on there for like a decade, if not like much longer, and on and off as well. So it's really important to just say, hey, if you're going to reach out to someone, don't throw your CV at them and say, have you got a job? Because that's not the best approach, and you probably won't get any responses. But being very strategic on who you reach out to is really important, and how you reach out to them too. And it's an art a lot of the time, and it just needs practice. Again, something that you need to work out the best approach for you. And that's one of the things that we do on our Doctors in Industry incubator, which we launched a month or 2 ago, which is going really well. And Mohamed is going to be mentoring some of our fellows on developing stellar LinkedIn profiles, but also running a masterclass on optimizing your LinkedIn profile as a doctor moving to industry, which is really exciting. And this is all based on his guide that he's written for professionals, healthcare professionals, on optimizing their LinkedIn profile, which is going to be inclusive of the Medic Footprints Premium membership and the Doctors in Industry Fellows, which is going to be really exciting. So thank you for that, Mohamed. Thank you for that. But for everyone else who wants to access it outside of the Medic Footprints community, where can they find your guide?
So it's all it's uploaded on Gumroad, so you can buy it from there, or you can find this through my LinkedIn profile. There's a little link that you can click on it, and then you can find the guide through this link.
Awesome. And just quickly, I mean, we've talked about LinkedIn a lot, and like, what does success look like? When do doctors know that their efforts on LinkedIn is paying off? What would you say? What kind of key performance indicators would you say, hey, it means that you're doing quite well?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because people always will keep looking at the numbers in terms of, the circle that you have around you, like friends or followers. And that's always tricky to look at because that can take a very long time to build. But I think what's more important to look at is how much meaningful relationships that you have made through that time. So even if you have 100 friends or followers on LinkedIn, but you have done or you have got 5 new friends, real friends and people that you talk to and sharing thoughts with, and had some calls with them. I think that's very meaningful and a very good outcome. So don't be bothered about the numbers, but just share your thoughts and ideas, and the numbers will come at the end.
I think that's really good advice. I mean, there's always the vanity metrics of how many followers or connections do you have. And it feels good to have more than someone else, right? But the reality is, if you can have the biggest network in the world, but if you don't leverage the network itself, so leverage opportunities for those networks, that network means nothing. So one of the things we really focus on is how can you build your own high value network that's relevant to what you're doing. So your network may not be the same as your colleague's network because you have a different focus on what you want to achieve. And this is another thing, going back to the foundation of why it's so important that doctors learn how to sell themselves, which comes from having clarity and focus on what your career goals are. And a lot of doctors just do not have that. And that's what we find, especially those who are changing careers. They want to do everything and nothing. And that leads to overwhelm. That leads to just not uncovering the best quality opportunities, at least. So use it wisely.
And I think some doctors might have this thinking of LinkedIn or thinking of the followers numbers as being an influencer or something like that, which they might have a negative image of it. I mean, you're not trying to be an influencer, but you're trying to share your thoughts and be listened to, and that's very important. This is how you get you have more impact on public or on the society around you. And I usually tell this to other people is, let's say I'm a neurosurgeon, and how many people would I help every year? The maximum number of operations I can do a year, maybe 250 or something like that. And the maximum number of people that I would see in a clinic in a year, similar number, maybe more. So, a single surgeon can help maybe 1,000 patients, 2,000 patients a year. That's like a huge number. But think about the impact that you can create through these social platforms. It's way more than that. A single post or a single thought that you share or a single article can be read by thousands and thousands of people, and that can make a huge impact on people's life if you share a proper advice. So think about it from that way, rather than having this negative thinking of influencers. It's not like a TikTok dancing style. It's something meaningful and helpful.
But
for
it
people
can be a TikTok dancing.
It can be, I'm not against that.
I was saying that because I literally came across an article on dancing doctors on TikTok, and I just don't understand it. But there you go. It seems to attract and engage.
What I'm trying to say is that doctors, when they think about it, they always think that it has to be this way. But it doesn't. I mean, people have different views of doing things, so you can choose whatever way you want to do it.
Yeah. That's a great way to end it. The rules are there aren't any rules, really. Everything we've said doesn't have to go down with you. You could just choose not to use LinkedIn, and that would be fine. It's not the easiest way forward, but it's a way forward, and that's your choice. So yeah, it's really important that whatever you decide moving forward, it's got to work for you, and whatever you use, make it work for you, not the other way around. Because we've fallen into that trap as doctors many, 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 many times. And, we're on a mission to connect 1 million doctors with the best and diverse careers. And we want to make sure that doctors don't burn out in that process. And it's sustainable careers where they can make an impact, work autonomously and on their own terms. And in order to do that, you need to create your own structure and framework that's come from you, not from an institution or anyone else. It's from you.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of experimentation, a lot of soul searching. I would highly, highly strongly recommend you invest in coaching and mentoring, which we offer through our programs at Medic Footprints. We also have MF approved coaches, or you may go and find another coach. Whatever it is, please, if there's one thing you do in 2023 and you're looking to change careers, or you're looking to develop yourself into a leader, please invest in yourself and get coaching, because it will save you so much time, money, and help you create the impact that's needed. It's not just you wanting it, it's the world needing it. So please do it for us, the world. All right.
Yeah. That's a very important advice, to be honest. I mean, the more you develop your skills outside the medicine, the more the more opportunities you get, and you're not going to get this without, getting yourself out of the four walls that we are kind of stuck in your hospital or in your clinic. You have to get outside, and to get outside means that interact with other people outside medicine. I always have cooperation with, let's say, engineers, and some research collaboration with biomedical engineers, and all of these discussions are fascinating. Is nice, because I'm just stepping out of the medical discussions. So it's very important to interact with people in economics and finance, in creator side, YouTube, anything, and you will be fascinated by the amount of skills that you will build by just stepping out. And even if I'm not pushing people to say, okay, you have to quit medicine, but the skills that you will develop will be very helpful in your career as a doctor.
Absolutely, yeah. As a doctor outside or inside of clinical medicine, whatever you do in your life, these are really important skills. They're called soft skills, but they're actually essential skills. I was going to say, we're going to come back to the key indicators that you're doing well, whatever you're doing on LinkedIn. So doctors that we've worked with, when we've worked with them on their LinkedIn profile and learning how to sell themselves, things I've noticed is they've been approached by companies, they've been approached by recruiters, their posts get commented on more, or they get better engagement in their comments, so to speak. Their confidence increases. That's another thing that's kind of underestimated. Your confidence increases as you use the platform more and more. And then you can feel better to actually take some of those conversations, and even some of those people that you meet, as Mohamed mentioned, and see them in person at an event. We went to this networking event a few weeks ago, and it's like, hey, we're in person. This is kind of weird, but actually kind of normal at the same time. Just seeing each other live and in person is really, really powerful. But again, it's up to you to decide as to what good looks like for you. Some people use it 100% for lead generation. If you're running a business, lead generation being finding people who could potentially work with you. A lot of people obviously use it for actually finding jobs. But remember, once the job is on LinkedIn being a platform that has billions of people on it, you are putting yourself up against a high number of competition, I should say. Not to put you off that, but that is the reality. So once a job comes on LinkedIn, go for it, but see if there's any other ways you can get in to kind of help yourself stand out. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, Mohamed. Really appreciated.
Thank you.
We'll really look forward to our masterclass and mentoring session with you. And I assume people can find you on LinkedIn. You've got a very beautiful profile, actually. I love the banner in particular. Can you tell us briefly, tell us about the banner? It's this gorgeous, sunny yellow banner saying, "You are a designer."
So no, it's just I'm trying to make the colors are the same in all the things that I use. So it's
Who's
the
your
black and yellow are nice.
branding?
So yeah, and then you are a designer is coming from the design thinking is a way of solving problems and offering solutions, and it's very helpful in the healthcare to create solutions for problems in a different way. And people think that they don't have this skill, but they are actually. And they think that a designer is someone who's dealing with art and or writing songs or something like that. But it's not. It's designing is meaning designing a solution, basically. So that's why I'm saying you are a designer.
Awesome, awesome. Love it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks,
And for anyone
Abeyna.
that's
Thank you.
interested, go to medicfootprints.org/industry if you want to learn more about the Doctors in Industry Incubator.